And we are live. Mr. Eric Lewis, NBA referee for 16 seasons now. I'm very thankful to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty good.
How was did you end up watching the game, by the way? Any of the highlights? The Baltimore Cleveland game?
I did watch. I caught the last quarter and
Okay.
half of the third and the fourth. Yep.
Yeah, because I remember when we were on the phone, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just going into half. And then it ended up just being one of the most spectacular games of the season. Both Lamar and Baker did their thing, and then just missed field goals, turnovers. It was incredible.
Block field goals. It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and Lamar had to leave. We didn't know why he left, and then he comes back, and they're saying he's at the Paul Pierce cramp. It was awesome. It was a great Monday night game. But Mr. Eric Lewis, thank you for giving me your time. This is such a unique interview for myself. I've interviewed NBA players covering the Orlando Magic. I've interviewed athletes, boxers, UFC fighters, but I've never gotten the opportunity to pick a referee's mind the way I'm about to pick your mind right now. So it's very exciting for me. But first off, how are you considering everything that went down? We'll get into the bubble and whatnot, but how is life right now? And that's one thing I don't take for granted because of how chaotic 2020 has been. So how has your life been so far this year?
Yeah. Remember this. The bubble ended, and we were home a month, and now we're back in the season. So it goes from being home where everything is calm now being chaotic kind of, because now you're back on the road and there's new protocols you have to deal with, and
Right.
traveling and being in the hotel and getting tested and everything like that. So now it's back being a hectic schedule of flying and getting to games and getting back home and vice versa.
Right. Now, before we get into all the details of like what's going on in the league and the game and what it's like officiating it, how did you get started? So obviously you're from my hometown, Daytona Beach, Florida. So it's such a cool thing to have someone as successful as you coming from Daytona Beach. Obviously Vince Carter comes to mind. Ryan Lochte went to Spruce Creek High School. So we have Denzel Washington went to Mainland for like a year. So we have so many great people coming from Daytona Beach. So how did this all get started? How did you get in the officiating business?
I started with playing in the summer leagues in Daytona Beach, the local referees. When I was finished playing, because I played basketball at Mainland High School, played at Bethune-Cookman, and started playing, in the men's leagues around town. And one of the referees was like, "You'll be a good referee." And I started laughing, like, "Man, referees they suck. They don't know anything about basketball." And he was like, "Well, I have a camp coming up in a couple months. I would like for you to attend." So I said, "Okay, cool, I'll attend." So I want to say in June, uh, I attended the camp. Funny story though, he gave me an application. He said, "I'm gonna give you this app." He said, "Promise me you won't throw it away." I said, "Okay." So this was like in April, I want to say.
Right.
So I never even read the application. I just took it home and put it on my dresser, and I was like, you know, I'll just leave it there. I told him I won't throw it away, but it's just gonna
Right.
sit. And so come June, I'm cleaning up my room, and by that time, everything has piled up on this application. It's sitting up on the whatnots and things like that. And as I'm cleaning my room, I come across this application, and I go, it's a Sunday, so on Sundays we play basketball in the park. We play early that morning in Port Orange, and then in the afternoon we play in the park in Daytona. And in between coming from playing in the morning, I started cleaning up my room, and lo and behold, this application is sitting on my desk. And the camp started at 12 o'clock. So I was like, well, 12 o'clock, we're going to be to the park at 3. So let me go see what this camp is all about. If I don't like it, I'm going to go play in the park. Well, I never made it to the park. So that tells you about the camp. So I'll go into the camp, and the first day they start teaching them, how to look like a referee and all these things. And I was kind of intrigued. And from there, it just took off.
Right.
So out of that camp, I started high school right away. I actually got hired in junior college from that camp, which is, I was very lucky because there were many supervisors there of college leagues watching referees. And the day one, I didn't know anything about refereeing. And because I was very coachable, all the clinicians, they kind of gravitated toward me to help me out because they would tell me something and I would do it right away.
Right.
And I was like, man, this guy got some talent. So by the end of the camp, I didn't look like the Eric Lewis that walked in the front door. I looked like sort of a referee.
Wow.
And so that was very, very, it was fun. It was a fun camp.
That's a
So
really good story. Now, that was actually one of my questions. Obviously, um, how do people, you're an excellent referee. That's how you've gotten to the point. You're refereeing finals, the biggest stage of basketball there is.
yes, sir.
That's like, is that something that comes naturally? Like, as being a referee, something, because obviously there's referees, like if you go to a high school game, I used to play for Atlantic, and I remember some officiating, you're like, oh, I'm so happy this guy's officiating. And then there's other times like, I really don't ever see eye to eye with this guy. And I remember Coach Howard always be like, I like this ref, I don't like this ref. So is that something that you just naturally have? Is that something that you build? Is it experience? Or like you said, is it just coachability?
Refereeing they've each personality is unique in refereeing, and each one has its own how it serves the game. It has its place there, and because you have people that are very good in communication with people. So on the floor, they get along well with people, and people accept them whether they miss a call or not. You have referees who've been around the game all their life, and they understand the game, and they are really good play callers. And they serve the game really well. And then you have more people that probably was never around the game much, but are very good readers and rule books.
Right.
People, they know the rules well and they know how to apply them. So they serve the game in their own, unique way. And when you lack one of those areas, that's where I can be a really good rules guy and a really good play caller, but not a good communicator. So then
Right.
we clash. I can be a really good communicator, but not a good play caller. I may miss plays, but you accept me because we communicate. So
Okay.
every personality has its own, I don't know, kind of like successful area in it. And if you can like obtain all three, that's your like, optimal place you want to be, is be able to be a good communicator, good play caller, and good, really good in the rules. Those are ones that really have like that reach to like the top of the mountain.
How you become an Eric Lewis is what you're saying. But one thing I've noticed, Eric, when I would cover these games, the Orlando Magic, immediately I was in awe of just the warm up. So I'd always be the first person there. And I'm like, I just love watching these players warm up. I think people are so quick to criticize these athletes when you watch them on TV, or how did you miss that? How did you not make that? Why would he get that turnover here or there? What is it like seeing these guys up close from your perspective? Like how talented these guys really are? Is it still like a shock to you, or how good these guys really are?
Hands down, they're the best players in the world in basketball. Hands down, like it's a big separation. Being pretty decent basketball player and thinking I was an NBA player, but once you get out on the floor and see, from the speed, the athleticism, the how smart they play, it's like the way they make the game look so easy and simple, um, and their work ethic is it's different than anybody else. And like you say, people go, how can they miss that? Because when you think of a professional, you don't think that they make mistakes.
Right.
Um, Versus when they see a high school player or middle school player, they expect them to make mistakes.
Right.
But when you say a professional, no matter what it is, they think perfection.
Right.
And the thing is, professionals make mistakes. They just make less mistakes than everybody below them.
Right.
So,
I want to get into the bubble. So I believe Adam Silver, the NBA, they did an amazing job, from no positive test to the aesthetics to the level of play. It was just an incredible experience, especially for like the media and for just the consumers, the fans watching. It was unbelievable. But what was it like for you? You were in the bubble. What was that experience like?
it was very different. It's similar, not far as what we did, but the environment, similar to like going to boot camp where you can't really go anywhere, you're there.
Right.
And where we were, there weren't many activities that you can do basically, and because you couldn't leave inside, you couldn't leave inside that bubble to go do anything. So the activities were limited, things to do, like you can swim, lift weights, but the weight room was very small and limited in what they had. So you had to make adjustments. And then you had to be careful because you were trying to social distance in there. So you had to pick a time to go in and time to go out. So that was a big inconvenience. You go swimming. You could run around the campus, like jog or walk. Some of the guys walk. So one of the referees, who's a big pickleball player, brought his pickleball net and plenty of pickleballs and a couple paddles, and I got into playing pickleball. So we would do that. We would do that for most of the day, which then where we were, the players, we were on one side with the media and everyone that kind of was like an administrative part of that helped make the bubble work. We were over there with them, and the players and coaches and their families were on the other side. So a lot of them joined, like people like yourself, broadcasters and all. They started coming and joining us playing, and then it became, a very competitive type everyday thing that, everybody would jump in, and it was pretty fun. So I learned how to play pickleball, which I still play today. So
wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that is really cool. I bet you guys got pretty competitive out there. Now, did you initially think this was going to be able to get pulled off? Because I remember at one point when COVID first happened and we were in shock of what it was, and then we kind of had an understanding of what it is, but then sports were all postponed. And at one point it looked like, okay, there's not going to be an NBA season. But then once we found out, okay, there's going to be a bubble, did you initially think it was going to be able to work?
Far as the way the NBA works, I think their plan was put into place. It was a whole lot of thought that went into it to make sure that it was going to be successful. But you still had to rely on other participants. So, all those other participants didn't fall in line or,
right.
Then it wouldn't have worked. So it was like a group type effort that made it work. And everybody from the players, the coaches, from the broadcasters, from the referees, we all had to do our part and maintain, to make sure that it was successful. So the NBA plan was already, you knew it was going to work. It's just relying on other components to not break,
Right. So. Well, I feel like this is going to be a documentary. Like, I feel one day we're going to look back at this and like how they had the MJ's documentary. It's going to be The Bubble, and it's going to talk about all of this because it sounds like it's from a movie. This doesn't sound like it actually happened or it actually was real. It's like, hey, there's going to be a bubble where they're on an island basically in Orlando and they're just going to play basketball. It sounds like a reality show or a movie, and you guys were able to pull it off.
It could be.
Yeah. Okay, now as far as the actual officiating, so you're in the bubble. Were there any advantages or disadvantages with your time being in the bubble when officiating the game that you weren't expecting?
Well, the advantage was the big advantage because normally during the season, you cannot watch all the games because you're working, like there were 15 games a night, 13 games a night, 12 games. So you're not able to watch every game. In the bubble, you were able to watch every game. And also, there were 42 referees in the bubble, even though it was cut all the way to the finals. I think it was 12 in the finals. But from 42, we were all, sit in a restaurant and watch the games, and we were able to break down the games and critique and learn and get better, which you don't normally have on the road where it's just 2 or 3 of you on the road. And, it's hard to interact with your other referees to get better. It's just you 3. Where in the bubble of 42, we were all able to collaborate and come up with solutions and things like that and become better referees.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. Now, did you notice a different different attitude with the players? Did they act any different as far as, because obviously they're in a bubble too, so they're experiencing the same kind of things. Were they a little more understanding? Were they in better moods because there wasn't travel? Were they a little agitated? Did you notice any difference in the players when officiating the game?
Well, attitude-wise, we were all aware of the environment, and we all tried to work together to make it a more I don't know, like a more workable environment. It wasn't
Right.
so us going at them going at us. We were all trying to work together.
Right.
And the other thing was not having the crowds, I think, kind of had an effect on players, because usually that 6 man can get a team going. Like if they're down 15, 20 points,
Right.
that crowd to pull that energy off a dunk or a three, or pass behind the back or anything like that, and give that team adrenaline, and to try to get back into the game, or motivation. So I think that had an effect, because when the team got down, they didn't have that extra boost
Right.
they usually need to get back going.
I'm about to say that was my next question, actually, as far as the specific officiating. What was it like not having fans screaming at you? Was that nice?
Uh, it's strange, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's strange. But the NBA did do this though. They had artificial noise, so it was for the home team. So anytime you made a call against the home team, it would go like boo. So that was kind of funny and unique. We would laugh.
Right.
But it is strange, because sometimes we work off that too. Like like they think we miss a call, and then they look at the replay. It's like boo. They got it right. So you don't have that. So now we go like, yeah, I got that right. So we work off some of that hate and adrenaline as well.
Right.
Sometimes.
These next two questions I have for you. Well, I got three questions for you. These next two are really ones that I'm so curious about to get your perspective on. So often when we compare generations, you hear that former or older players in the past generations were tougher because the game was more physical, but today's players are more skilled. Would you agree with that?
I think the older players would have been skilled if the parameters were set for them like they're set today.
Okay.
See, back when they played, you had post players and things like that. The game was geared toward that. And then they changed to now there's no post play. Everybody's athletic and they shooting threes.
Right.
Well, imagine if you'd have did the same kind of parameters for those guys back then, they would have made that type of adjustment. Versus if they implemented the post play back, we would have more post players. So I don't think all those guys were exceptional athletes. I think they would have adjusted to any kind of parameters that would have been set, around them. So I don't think it's a different style, not different players.
Right.
It's just a different style of way we play now, because we still got a few post players that are really good. Embiid, LaMarcus Aldridge, like those guys still who are post players can, they can do their thing.
Right. No, I couldn't agree more. And when I hear like, oh, the bad boy Pistons, what they would do to LeBron today, I'm like, it's just different, because now if LeBron was allowed to be physical, I'm sure we wouldn't be having this criticism. If back in the day he was able to kind of extend his arm a little bit more, put his shoulder down, he was the size of Bill Laimbeer. So like, I'm pretty sure he'd be okay.
6'8", 230 pounds. Like, what you going to do with him?
Yeah, exactly. The next thing I wanted to ask you is, considering your position within the league, what are your thoughts on how the game is played today and the direction the game of basketball is heading in now?
Well, for me, I think it'll be cycles. I think like everybody shooting threes or run its course. And then they'll go back to some post play. Like I think it will evolve back. I just think everything that leaves comes back at some point. It may not be in my time, but it'll be in somebody's time that it will. I'm not sure. Like I think the fans love to see high scoring games, so they like all the 3-pointers. The fact that you have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and some other guys that I may not name right now, but that can shoot 50% from the 3-point line, brings that excitement. And then that the range that they shoot it from, Lillard, when he did the bye-bye, like
right.
the fans and people love to see that. So I think that 3-point shot will be around for a long time because before it wasn't a high percentage shot. Now, Harden scoring 50 from shooting back there. Like, it'll be around for a while.
Right.
So I don't think it's going anywhere because the kids are seeing it, excuse me, and they want to emulate that type of play.
Right.
So
Steph Curry completely changed the game. And now, like when you walk into a gym, you're seeing people, they don't even warm up anymore. They just go straight for threes. And it's like, how
yeah,
far can you shoot? How quickly can you shoot? You don't have to name a specific player, but are there players like that's like almost like a homework assignment? This is going to be a hard homework assignment. So you need to study a little bit more. Are there players out there that are going to require more of your attention when officiating them?
I think that's every game.
Okay.
Because every team has a unique player, from offense to defense. This guy's a very good defensive player. This guy's a very good shot blocker or a rebounder. So everybody, I think, has their own unique style in the game that you have to pay attention to. It's not just, just the best player, So your homework is every night because these guys go 100%, and you want to make sure that you're not the reason that they don't have an opportunity to win. Like they win or lose the game on their own merit.
Right. Two last things for you here. Eric Lewis joining me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks again. Yep.
Referees obviously are such a huge part of the game, but I feel like we really don't get to hear your side of things a lot. So is there anything that you would express or want to say to fans, to players, to coaches, anyone listening that you normally wouldn't have the chance to say?
Just tell them try to referee one intramural game and see try it out. They will get all they need to know.
Yeah, it's a lot harder than it looks, huh?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you have to be trained, not to understand what to look for, where to look, and things like that. Because you can get caught up in the game if you don't have that kind of discipline. Meaning that you're not watching. If you're watching the offensive player, you're going to miss more plays than if you're watching the defensive player.
Right.
So the thing is to try to eliminate your misses. If you can get in the right spot and know where to look, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a high success rate versus just running around and looking at the ball being passed around, And then fans are just fans. Like they have a home team, like they have a team that they root for. So no matter how good you are, they're going to blame the referees, most of the time, but that's just a human emotion. But I think they do understand the reality of everything as well, So I can't really like give them anything that would to change their perspective.
Right.
They've been like, you look at fans. Let's go like the big Boston, LA rivalry. Like those are like, I don't know, passed on from generation to generation to generation. So you're not going to, tell them like, hey, we got that call right. They don't care.
Right.
They watched you get the call right on the Jumbotron and still boo you because you called it on their best player, their favorite player, you know? So it doesn't matter, in my opinion. So
no, yeah, complete sense. Yeah.
But just one time, go out and referee. I don't care if it's soccer, football, baseball. Go referee.
It's tough. It's tough. That's why you do it, Eric. Last question for you is this. Eric Lewis, you have refereed in the NBA for 16 seasons now. So you've seen a lot of games. You've covered a lot of games. I'm sure you have stories for days. Is there one game that sticks out to you, your favorite game you've ever officiated in 16 seasons?
Oh, favorite game? There are several games. I had one game in Atlanta. I think we went like 5 overtimes, 4 overtimes maybe. I had a playoff game. It was Brooklyn, Chicago. That went to like 4 or 5 overtimes. Like there's several games that you had that, player hit 50. I didn't have the Kobe Bryant 81, or the Kobe Bryant last game was 60. But like there are some games like that stand out. So to pinpoint just one game, it's kind of hard, It's just there's games that I think the best games for me when you go out and work and you don't even realize the players, like say Michael Jordan scored 50 tonight. You go like, he did? It didn't look like he scored 50, but the
Right.
teams played so hard. When you look at the box score, you go like, wow, the score was, 120 to 130. And and you just like trying to kind of like gather your thoughts in the locker room, you're trying to come down, it's like those type of games are the games you like. Uh, maybe my very first game in Dallas, it was Golden State playing Dallas. My first regular season game as an NBA referee. Michael Finley hits a three to tie the game to go into overtime. And I'm standing right there on the play in the corner. It's right in front of me, and I have it. And it's two defenders. He catches it. They double team him. He jumps up, whack, and we go into
Mm.
overtime. So it's like that's probably the most memorable one, you know, me getting the call to be an NBA referee, and then my first game was a double overtime game.
That's fantastic. You have the best seat in the house. Well, obviously you're not sitting, but you definitely have the best view in the house. So, Eric Lewis, I truly appreciate you giving me your time. Very happy I was able to really pick your mind. You're a legend, not only just in Daytona Beach, but within the NBA. But I mean, you go to Bethune Grill, you go anywhere, and you're everywhere. So it's a very good honor for me to have this time to speak with you. So I appreciate your time.
Thanks, and shout out to Bethune Grill. You got to go by there and try their wings
The best wings, right?
on the planet.
Thank you, Eric. You be safe.
Be safe.